We've now deployed the occupant cycle. It's very straightforward. As soon as you click send on that, it sends the text message and it sends the email. Now, as you can see, when the occupant receives it, on the screen recording you've got just here of an iPhone, when they get their email, they go into their inbox, tap on that email, and then it's very clearly and simply worded that there's important property report information, there's some action required. So they get their text message as well, and all they have to do is tap on one button there to view the report. It makes it very clear who the reports come from. Users that have custom branding don't even have any reference to Inventory Hive in there either, but there is always very clearly who the logo and the details of who it's come from. So obviously, as you can see on the screen now, the tenant gets those compliancy questions that you would have perhaps covered with them over the phone. And again, it might be that you strip those down a little bit than you normally would for a personal visit, but you just keep the questions in there basic. So it just shows to the tenant that, look, we want to make sure that the basic health and safety compliance is in the property, and obviously you confirm that over the phone. Some of it, as I say, like gas safety certificates, you'd already know that stuff remotely anyway. We also, as part of this template, added in a property overview item as well that gets the tenant to specifically agree. We do default it to yes, but they have the option to disagree and add their comments, as you'll see in a moment. But we do make it specific they're agreeing that the smoke alarms are present on each level and they're working. Now, again, in the overview of each room, in this case the entrance hallway, it says that the tenant has confirmed there are no maintenance issues to raise within this room and space. Now, we default it to yes. Now, if the tenant says no, they have the opportunity to add their own comments. And I would say, as a rule of thumb, you would always work on the assumption that things are fine. Make it clear to the tenant that you're going to send it out that everything's fine and that it's down to them to interact and add their comments and their photos. So in this case, we've, in this recording example, it just says there is a small damp patch on the wall adjacent to the living room door. They've added the comment. Now, our paperless process will ensure the tenant has to take a photo. They can't just add a comment about a maintenance issue without photographic evidence being loaded in. So in this case, as you can see, a photo has been added. And then that photo then gets loaded in, okay? My Wi-Fi was poor at the time I was recording this, the joys of working from home. So it was a bit slow when it was loading in, but if we just look back over at this infographic over here on this option 3, as you can see that the occupant approval process is that the tenant just says, or the occupant, the tenant says, I'm actually fine with everything. So let's just say they don't have any maintenance issues. They would just hit save and next on this screen and then follow through to the next screen and then sign, as you'll see on this recording in just a moment. The example that I've just shown you from this screen recording is, of course, the feedback process, whereby the tenant, the resident, occupant, however you want to refer to it, wants to say something in each room. It might be that they do have maintenance issues they want to raise. And then you hit save and continue on that. And then it takes you into the final screen as the tenant. The tenant then just pops their signature on, hits save and continue, and it then submits the process back to you. So you will then get a notification as the letting agent, as the property manager, to say, in this case, Joe Bloggs, the tenant, has given you some feedback on their report, which then gives you the opportunity to interact, have a final say, and also for maintenance reasons, it might be that you decide you want to send it in the maintenance area within our platform. Now, if you integrate with FixFlow, for instance, that's a good opportunity to also send it over to FixFlow. So what I've got here is an example of one where there is some some tenant feedback. So I've sort of prepared one so that I can show you how you would receive that back. So as you can see on here, it does quite clearly say that, look, you've got some tenant feedback here, and it's obviously those who are familiar with using the platform obviously also get to know the color schemes on here as well, and they can also filter out to show these types of report statuses. Now, if you hit on this cog here, you can then respond to the tenant's comments. So the interim visit feedback the tenant gave you, when you click on that, it will then open up a screen that looks like this. So as you can see, we have in our template that we will give to everybody off the shelf that we've created for this very scenario, is we said originally for the entrance hallway that the tenant has confirmed there are no maintenance issues to raise within this room and space. Now, actually, the tenant agreed with that comment, and added their own comments, and they said there's a small damp patch on the wall adjacent to the living room door. Now, when you're sitting at the comfort of your desk remotely, you can see that comment, of course. You can also zoom in on the photograph and have a look at the detail that they've sent through to you. Now, it might be that you decide that, actually you agree to that. I mean, generally speaking, you are going to agree because they're going to be raising issues that are there and hence the photo evidence. So you could just say something along the lines of, thanks for raising this issue. It's been noted accordingly. Okay, and then from there you can also say, actually, this is a repair issue, this is a replacement issue, so you can flag that. So just to make this clear though, this blue section that you see before you here, it doesn't get shown to the tenant. The tenant isn't aware that you've raised this as a maintenance issue. They get to see your comment, but they don't know you sent it through to to our maintenance section, as it were. Now, if you do use FixFlow, you can just hit yes on here, and of course that will send that issue straight into FixFlow, where it will get picked up for you. So it does join up the dots, as well as obviously creating an audit trailed report that you can use to share with your landlord, etc. So all I would do on here then is I'm just going to hit save and continue, and then jump back into the software. As you can see on here, that's now going to become that's going to change color. It will become green to say that actually this report is completed. Or at least it won't. No, it will in a moment when I hit generate report. There we go. So as you can see now, it shows you the breadcrumbs of what happened at each stage. But now we've got a completed report that audit trails all of the feedback. Now, I've already pre-created this very scenario earlier on. So essentially what then happens is you can clearly see the maintenance issue that was raised. Shows on the front cover of the report. We know that in the entrance hallway, there's a repair issue. If I scroll down into the body of the report, obviously I get to see all the compliance questions, as I say, that were perhaps discussed over the phone. I then get to see, if I zoom in down here, the feedback from the tenant. So the tenant clearly identified there's a small damp patch on the wall adjacent the living room door. And then the inspector agreed with that and added their comments. So everything got audit trailed. I've also got a photo in here that clearly shows it was raised by the tenant. If I click on this image, it will open up a high definition online gallery of that image as well. But of course, the most important thing with all of this as well is that you end up with a report that's signed by the tenant, that's also signed by you, that clearly shows these compliance steps, maintenance issues have been confirmed. Now, now this particular issue that we've got here, quite clearly, this could be down to a leak in the roof. It could be down to pipe work, but this could be a permissive waste issue that, if it's not raised, could become an issue over time. And this is why deferring management visits for a long period of time could become an issue over time. And that's why obviously having their engagement on a report like this is going to be, to be very important, to avoid permissive waste risks and issues, as it were. So